Ik sta hier vandaag in Amsterdam in het hoofdkantoor van Warner Bros. Vandaag wordt hier The Lord of the Rings War in the North getoond. Ik heb een interview met de producer van de game en natuurlijk ga ik er zelf ook mee aan de slag. Ik zit hier ondertussen alweer een tijdje co-op te doen met 3 man in The Lord of the Rings War in the North. Ik moet zeggen, het valt me helemaal niet tegen. Van tevoren had ik er eerlijk gezegd niet zo heel veel van verwacht. Maar het is eigenlijk wel een hele leuke action RPG. En zelfs nog wat lastiger dan ik eigenlijk had gedacht. Maar hoe het precies in het Lord of the Rings verhaal past, dat snap ik nog niet echt. Dus dat ga ik aan de producent vragen.
My name is Ruth Tamandel, and I'm a producer on the development team at Snowblind Studios for Lord of the Rings War in the North.
Right, well, I think we all are familiar with the story of the Lord of the Rings, with Frodo and the Fellowship traveling down to Mordor to destroy the ring. Where does War in the North tie into this story?
So War in the North takes place at the same time as the Lord of the Rings books and films. So it's a story of other battles during the War of the Ring. It takes place at the same time. So you actually start in Bree the night before Frodo gets there with the ring. Speaking with Aragorn, he sends you on a quest north to Fornos, and as the game goes on, you'll travel farther and farther north as the ring goes farther south. So although you're diverging from the path of the ring, you'll interact with some of the same characters, see some of the same locations, and you're fighting in the same war.
All right, well, we're traveling north, of course. What is the path we take? Will we travel to familiar locations like Rivendell, Iron Mountains, that kind of stuff?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of familiar locations, definitely Rivendell, a few other places that you may have read about, or a few that were in the films. But we tried to draw on locations that were in the books but weren't shown in the films. So, for example, Mount Gundabad is a location that played fairly heavily in the books, especially in The Hobbit, but you've never really been able to go there. So we really wanted to show players more areas in Middle-earth than they've seen before. There's also a few areas that are completely new that are based on lore in the books. So, for example, Nordenbad, the dwarf fortress, is based on the fact that we know there were dwarves in the Grey Mountains, but you never really get to see them. So we really wanted to explore those kind of unexplored areas.
Well, in the game you have this, this tiny fellowship of 3 characters: an elf, a dwarf, and the ranger, a human. Mm-hmm. How do they meet each other? How do they, find each other and, go on their quest?
Aradan the Ranger is one of Aragorn's rangers camped at Sarnford near the Shire. So as you know, the rangers are kind of protecting the people of Middle-earth without really those people knowing that that's happening. So Aradan is one of those rangers. He's stationed at Sarnford during an attack by the Nazgul as they're traveling into the Shire to try to find the ring. So he and Andriel the elf and Farin the dwarf, who are there for other reasons, end up traveling north to talk to Aragorn. Andriel is there because Elrond has sent her out into the world to gather information. So she's kind of his agent out in Middle-earth, finding out what's going on with these armies gathering. Farin is a dwarf. He's a pretty grizzled veteran warrior. He's been in lots of wars and battles before. He's from the Lonely Mountain, Erebor, and he's traveled to Sarnford to help protect the Shire as part of his people's debt to Bilbo Baggins for what Bilbo did during the Battle of the Five Armies. So even though the 3 characters are all near the Shire for different reasons, they end up working together because they all have the same goals.
Well, they're all 3 playable characters. What are the main differences in playing style between all those characters?
We wanted all 3 of the characters to be very strong in melee combat because melee combat is really the heart of the game and it's what's the most fun about it. But we wanted them to play really differently. So Farin the dwarf is very much a tank. He can take a lot of damage. He can do a lot of damage to single large targets. He's got a lot of stuns, a little bit of crowd control, but his ranged combat is fairly weak. Whereas Aradan the Ranger has better range combat. He can dual wield also, so he does a lot of damage to single targets. So while Farin takes a lot of damage, Aradan dishes a lot of damage out. He's also able to stealth, so he can go invisible, sneak around behind enemies and take them out. Andriel the elf, even though she's a little weaker taking damage because she wears cloth armor, she has a lot of crowd control. She can push enemies back away from herself. So she does a lot of protection things, but in melee, she's still pretty awesome. I really enjoy playing her in melee.
Well, the battles in the Lord of the Rings movies and the books play a huge role. In War in the North, did you capture that kind of scope, like Battle for Helm's Deep and Minas Tirith? Will you see those large battles in the game?
Yeah, I think the largest battle in the game is the Battle for Nordenbad, which is area we've shown a couple of times, but it's a dwarf fortress high in the mountains, and you're defending it against these huge armies that are coming in with siege towers. Belaram, the eagle, will come in and take out some of the siege towers. All the while, there's just tons of enemies climbing over the wall towards you. Trolls assaulting the door. It's a huge scale battle. And it's really fun. It's also really hard.
Sounds really good. When can we get our hands on it?
November 1st is when the game comes out.
For Xbox, PS3 and PC?
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. Vanaf 1 november is hij dus verkrijgbaar, maar ik heb er net al eventjes mee kunnen spelen en dan in de co-op met 3 spelers. En wat dan gelijk opvalt is dat de game echt voor co-op gemaakt is. Dit is eigenlijk geen spel die je alleen moet oppakken en in je eentje moet gaan spelen. Dan valt hij denk ik toch wel een beetje tegen, maar met 3 man in de co-op is het wel leuk. Wat ook een voordeel is dat je gewoon met 2 man op de bank kunt en dan een derde via Xbox Live voorbij. Dus die vrijheid heb je. Wat me ook opvalt is dat de game vrij lastig is. Het is niet dat je eventjes door die hordes orks hakt zoals je in de film ziet. Je moet echt je best doen en er flink op losslaan. Daarnaast zijn de vijanden ook vrij groot. De orks, de Uruk-hai zoals ze heten, die zijn ook echt 2 meter groot. Dus daar moet je flink op inhakken. Ik ben net ook wat trollen tegengekomen die echt boven je uit torenen. Wat dan heel erg helpt is dat je de hulp kan inroepen van een adelaar. Doe je met een druk op de knop, kan van tijd tot tijd. Die komt dan vanaf boven geswoopt en die doet een flinke aanval met flink veel damage. Ja, wat moet ik over de game nog zeggen? Ik moet zeggen, het valt me eigenlijk wel mee. Het is niet echt een grote release dit najaar, maar het is zeker geen slechte game. Wat me wel een beetje opvalt is dat het veel van hetzelfde is. Het is natuurlijk een action RPG, dus dat is ook wel een beetje logisch, maar het is echt constant hacken en slashen. En daar mag voor mij wat meer variatie in. Of die variatie er ook in zit, dat zien we tegen de tijd dat hij uit is. En dan kun je ook de recensie verwachten.